when Hitler arrived, a Nazi lawyer took control of Ferdinand's possessions and handed out his Klimt paintings to museums, like the National Art Gallery known as the Belvedere. Some paintings went to the Fuhrer Museum of Hitler. This was not a probate, and Ferdinand was not dead. So this was not in deference to a will that Adele had made saying, can you please donate my Klimts to the Belvedere after your death. Ferdinand was her heir, and these paintings were his property, and he did not donate them. Now, the painting continued to be a symbol of Austria, even under Nazi rule. It was displayed in a book in 1942. Adele was now a racial enemy, so the book called her Dame in Gold, the Lady in Gold. Baldur von Schirach, the Nazi governor of Vienna, sponsored Klimt's biggest show ever in 1943, and Adele's portrait appeared with a descriptive title, Portrait of a Lady with a Gold Background. These Jewish models, once so preoccupied with their identities, were now anonymous. Adele was an anonymous symbol of an elegant Viennese woman, but for Nazi art shows. Meanwhile, while all these shows were going on, Adele's niece, Luisa, was struggling to survive in Yugoslavia with her family, and her other niece, Maria, fled. After the war, Allied forces pulled art out of salt mines and castles. 20% of the art in Europe had been stolen. It was piled in depots. Ferdinand didn't want to give the portraits of Adele or anything else to Austria. He tried to get his Klimts back. He didn't want to donate them. He died in 1945. He never got them back or anything back. His house, anything. His company, he was fleeced. Then for a long time, what happened in Austria stayed in Austria. Adele's portrait and the other stolen Klimt paintings remain hanging in the Belvedere. Heirs were told the art was donated. Heirs to the Rothschild collection, heirs to all the collections were told that their family had donated these paintings, when in fact, they had been forced to sign over some of their possessions in exchange for getting some of their other possessions or getting out with their lives. Museum correspondence that told a contradictory story was locked away. A man named Kurt Waldheim ran for president. He said he spent the war years at university. People accepted this, and then people began to examine the past. Hubertus Czernin, a muckraking journalist, heard that Kurt Waldheim had joined a Nazi organization and fought in the German army. He published his findings in the Austrian press, and it was shocking. Hubertus also heard rumors about art in the Belvedere. He looked into a Klimt portrait of a woman named Adele Bloch-Bauer. He found the portrait had been pulled down from Ferdinand's wall and delivered to the Belvedere in 1941 with a letter saying, Heil Hitler. It turned out many paintings in the Belvedere, including the Rothschilds, weren't legally acquired. To Hubertus, Adele became a metaphor for the stolen and deliberately concealed history of Austria. These revelations prompted Austria to pass an art restitution law in 1998 to return art that had been stolen from state museums. But they failed to do this. And in a 2000 show called Klimt's Women, they hung all of these disputed paintings, including the portrait of Adele and the other portrait that Klimt painted next, prompting a Vienna journalist to compare Austria to a gangster's mall parading around after a bloody robbery with jewelry she insists the victim gave her as a present. By then, Maria Altmann was trying to get the family's Klimts back. At the end of her life, she had found a huge sense of purpose in this. It took Randall 8 long years and an unbelievable amount of work and creativity. The Supreme Court ruled in his favor on a jurisdiction issue in 2004, which prompted the Austrians to offer to let the case be decided in Vienna. The panel in Vienna found that the 5 Klimt paintings owned by the Bloch-Bauers, this one of them, should be returned to their heirs. The Austrians had a chance to buy some of the paintings early on, and they didn't do it. They said it would be too expensive. So the paintings left Austria. Ron Lauder bought this portrait for $135 million from the Neue Gallery, and the other 4 were sold at auction and vanished. Now, for me, this saga wasn't just a restitution of a painting. It was a restitution of history. By the end of this, Adele was no longer a beautiful enigma, a lady in gold. The restitution had resurrected her and the other Klimt's women as handmaidens of Vienna modernism, Each Klimt portrait in Vienna now had a story, and each story raised moral questions. Regardless of whether people believed the Bloch-Bauer Klimt should be returned, it was impossible for the Viennese who loved their art to look at these paintings and other paintings the same way again.